What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. I am Mike Tagliere here with you for another Sunday morning chat. Thank you guys, as always, for showing up. The chat's been fantastic this year, guys. It's exceeded expectations, so we want to thank you guys for being here every week. We know it's been a weird year. We know it's been a rough one for fantasy managers trying to find replacements at the last minute. And there are a lot of those guys that we're going to talk about today because there have been some late week injuries, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are looking for replacements. So we're going to discuss those. I'm going to take as many questions as I can for a full hour from you guys. But as usual, I do want to start by going over the injuries that you need to know about, because sometimes we get caught up in the week and we're not able to pay attention to the news, like some people are, i.e. me. But the guys that are out this week, Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders are going to be out for the Saints. Get them out of your fantasy lineups. Michael Thomas is now considered questionable for next week against the Bears because he's dealing with a hamstring injury. There's rumors that he might get traded. There's a whole bunch of things going on with Michael Thomas right now, but he's not in fantasy lineups right now. Emmanuel Sanders also out on the COVID list. This means Jared Cook should get a bump in targets. I've actually moved him into my top 7 tight ends for the week. You're also going to have Alvin Kamara, obviously, have a major role. Traquan Smith is someone that was dropped in a lot of leagues. I have him in wide receiver 3 territory this week. John Brown out of lineups. This is probably a good thing for the Bills to kind of give him a week off to get right. He's been trying to play through an injury. Obviously, more targets for Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley. Sammy Watkins is still out. He's going to be questionable, I'm guessing, for next week. The game that Kansas City's playing today actually is they're expecting like 5 inches of snow throughout that game, which is pretty interesting because when the Broncos played the Chiefs last year in the second meeting, that game was full of snow as well. And it's just a fun fact. Joe Mixon is out for this week, which means Giovanni Bernard is going to take that, I'll say workhorse load, because I don't think that they're going to involve many other players. I would expect 15 plus touches for Giovanni Bernard. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of questions on him today. Raheem Mostert was placed on IR. He's going to miss the next 3 weeks. He's out. Jerick McKinnon and JaMychal Hasty. We don't know really how much timeshare is going to work, but I'm assuming that Jerick McKinnon is going to get the majority of touches. Austin Hooper is out. He had an appendectomy. He might be out next week too. So David Njoku, he's like a streamer for those in desperation mode, but there's probably better options out there. And highly questionable, the big name that everybody's paying attention to this morning, and I'm going to try and give you guys an update as soon as we get it, it is that Aaron Jones is a game time decision, and we're not expecting him to play. He wants to play through it, but the Packers are saying that they're going to treat it, very safe, and if he's not 100%, they're not going to play him. It's really difficult because if he is active, it's like, how do you not play Aaron Jones against Houston? It's a great matchup, probably one of the best in the NFL. But at the same time, you have to understand that it's risky. I'm hoping that he's ruled out just so we can get some clarity on the situation. We'll talk about Jamal Williams because of that. But in general, right now, I'm expecting Jones to be ruled out. I have Jamal Williams ranked as my number 16 running back on the week, so you'd be starting him in most cases. Even A.J. Dillon moves up to RB30 in that circumstance. So I think they're both definitely worth thinking about. Justin Jackson, game time decision. They're expecting him to play. Jamison Crowder is doubtful to play. He suffered a soft tissue injury as the week went on. He's not expected to play, so probably get him out of your fantasy lineups. Again, we're going to get some news on these injuries as we go through, this show. We're going to hear about things. And the last one is DeAndre Hopkins. He is questionable for their game. And that game is not until tonight, which is really going to hurt some people. So, if you have Hopkins and you have no other solution, like if he doesn't play, I'm expecting him to play. But if he doesn't, maybe you can grab or David Moore or something like that off the waiver wire. Maybe you can grab Andy Isabella because he would have a bigger role in the offense. So that's probably where I'd look to. But yeah, that's basically what I wanted to cover injury-wise. So you guys now have that. We're going to get into questions here. If you guys can do me a huge favor, click the like button. Let them know that you enjoy the show. I know you guys do because you guys wouldn't be back here if you didn't. And click subscribe if you haven't already, because again, we're trying to grow the YouTube channel. We are now up to almost 80,000 subscribers. I think we can get there by next week. So if you're not subscribed by now, I definitely recommend it. We're trying to grow the channel, and the more subscribers we get, the more obviously time we're going to allocate to making videos and things like that. So thank you guys again for being here. Let's get into some questions. Ernesto is the first one I'll read today. Jamal Williams or Justin Jackson in a half PPR format. Justin Jackson has been dealing with enough injury concerns like leading up to the game and considered a game time decision. They are expecting him to play. They're playing Jacksonville. It's a good matchup where running backs are averaging over 30 touches per game. So even if this was a 50-50 timeshare, you're looking at 15 touches roughly around there for Justin Jackson. But with the injury concerns, it's enough for me to downgrade him just a little bit. We have some timeshare concerns in Green Bay as well, but again, against Houston, there's a lot of touches around there. David Bakhtiari, the left tackle for the Packers, is out for this game, so they may not want to have Aaron Rodgers drop back to pass as much. Now, granted, the Texans have one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL, so it's not so bad, but at the same time, Jamal Williams is the one I would go with. It's just that run defense in Houston is just terrible. They're both going to be in timeshares. The question is how much, but Jamal Williams is the one I would play. Brevin asks Chark or Boyd in standard. I'm going to go with Tyler Boyd just because I feel like he's a little bit safer. DJ Chark, so if the Chargers line up the way that they typically have throughout the year, Chark should not see a whole lot of Casey Hayward, who's the best cornerback on the Chargers, but it's still, Michael Davis has done a good job on the other side of the field. That Chargers team has actually been pretty good against wide receivers this year. It's not a defense that's allowing a whole lot of fantasy production, to be honest with you, because even when you go to the ground, they have still yet to allow a touchdown on the ground to a running back. But DJ Chark, there's enough concern that they may shadow him with Casey Hayward. It's a tough matchup. And let's not pretend that Chark's target share has been phenomenal all year. It's been really hit or miss. So I'm going to go with Boyd. I still think that Boyd is the number one option for Joe Burrow. The matchup against Cleveland is obviously a good one, and we saw that back when they played the first time. So I'm going to go with Tyler Boyd over DJ Chark. I just feel like he's a bit safer right now. Danny asks, good morning, love the show. Love that you're tuned in for the show, Danny. Full PPR, pick 3. All right, so Danny, I appreciate the question, and I want to let you guys know, I'm not doing this to be rude. I'm doing this to get to everybody that I can. If you ask a question, I need you to narrow it down to like 3 players. I can't go through and set an entire lineup just because it's going to take away from everybody else's questions. So I'm sorry, Danny. I appreciate the question. Try and resubmit it. Nicholas asks, sit Chark with Minshew out for Robert Woods. Minshew's not out. So Minshew, they're threatening to bench him if he doesn't play well. I mean, so he's not out. I'm still playing Robert Woods over DJ Chark no matter who's at quarterback for the Jaguars. That's just the way things are. Robert Woods is not a guy that I expect to smash against the Bears or anything like that, but he should rack up some receptions. He's just had a safer role than DJ Chark, and the matchups are bad for both of them. So give me the guy with the guaranteed role. That's Robert Woods. Bishop asked Justin Jackson or Melvin Gordon flex in a standard. I'm going to go Melvin Gordon here. Again, that game is projected to be snowing. The temps are below 25 degrees. It's not ideal football conditions for throwing the football. Now, granted, there's going to be some throwing in the game, but it's going to be more of a run-heavy game script for both teams. Melvin Gordon is a good running back, obviously. We've seen him perform this year. Kansas City is not a good run defense. I know they've looked okay the last couple of weeks, but we can go back through this team and look last year and look this. I would say that there are if I'm looking at matchups and trying to say, okay, what running backs have the best matchups, I would say the Chiefs are in the top 8 matchups that I look for a running back. I'm not worried about the matchup at all there. And in the snow, that benefits a running back. So I do like Melvin Gordon, especially with Justin Jackson's question marks this week. I like Jackson as a top 20 play, but I have Gordon higher. Let's see. Don, what's up, dude? I need to start one Montgomery, Gio, or Swift. I'm going to play Giovanni Bernard there. I have zero concerns about what his role is. I don't think the matchup is brutal. So I do want to clear this up, is that Joe Mixon is a better running back than Giovanni Bernard. Can we agree with that? Can everybody agree on that? If we can't, we have serious issues. He's a better running back. If you go back to the matchup in week 2 where Joe Mixon played against this Cleveland defense, Mixon had 16 carries for 46 yards. He had 4 catches for 40 yards. He finished as the RB27 in PPR formats that week. That's not great, right? So Giovanni Bernard, okay, that's not good. But they combined, those two did combine for 9 catches in that game. Now, Burrow did throw the ball 61 times. I'm just saying that Giovanni Bernard is a good play. He is a good play because he's a guy that's locked into 15-plus touches. You might get 20 out of him. But I don't want to pretend that he's an RB1. I think he's a solid RB2. I don't think he has massive upside or anything like that, because I do think this is still a team that's going to pass first. So I do like Gio more than those guys, because Swift, we could like Swift all we want. Atlanta has actually been really good against the run this year. I think that's kind of gone overlooked, where they're not allowing a whole lot of production on the ground. It's all through the air. Now, Swift is involved in the passing game, and they're talking about giving him a bigger role moving forward. So I like Swift fine, but I don't think he's as safe as Gio is. And then David Montgomery, what's the upside with David Montgomery? I mean, we had the matchup of a lifetime last week against Carolina, and what did he do? He walked away with 19 carries, 58 yards, 4 catches for 39 yards. I mean, David Montgomery, that's his upside, like if he doesn't score, he's letting you down. And even if he scores, I don't think he's getting into like top 10 territory. So, I mean, I'm just a little worried about him. The role is there, but I'm going to go with Gio of all those options. All right. Josh Jacobs or David Montgomery? Josh Jacobs. I mean, I don't like Jacobs so much this week, but you're not going to bench him for David Montgomery. Like, have you watched David Montgomery and the Bears play football this year? I'm a Bears fan, and I'm going to tell you that the Bears offense is not moving the football. They can't run it. The Rams, you don't throw the ball in the Rams, so the Bears have to get that run game going, but they've struggled to do it all year, and I don't see any reason that they're going to be able to accomplish that against the Rams. Montgomery does have a fair role, but so does Josh Jacobs. I mean, going into his bye week, he was leading the NFL in carries, so he's getting those carries. He's getting at least, I think, 3 targets in every game, so Jacobs, it's a brutal matchup for him, but I'd still play him. Jason, you need help? I need help as well. But there's no question here for me to answer, so I'm sorry about that, buddy. All right, let's see. Elijah asked, Giovanni Bernard, Justin Jackson, Swift, PPR pick 2. Gio's going to be 1 for sure. And then Justin Jackson, I had Jackson ranked higher than DeAndre Swift this week in my rankings, and I'm like kind of I don't want to say second guessing it, but I am like thinking about that a lot more, right? Because you're talking about a PPR format. We know that Swift is involved in the passing game. Now, there have been games where he's just disappeared. A lot of people want to talk about it. I've talked about this on the podcast, is that DeAndre Swift last week, he had I think it was 44% of the Lions running back touches. That's not great. I mean, they had 30, I think it was 36 or 39 touches in that backfield last week. So it allowed for him to get enough touches to be fantasy relevant and someone that you were able to watch kind of go off, right? But let's say this team only get 28 running back touches. That's about an average, right? If they get 28 running back touches, we're looking at maybe 12, 13 touches for DeAndre Swift. That's obviously not great. Whereas Justin Jackson, if he plays, it's like, how does he not get 15 touches in that game against Jacksonville, who's facing 32 running back touches per week? So I have Jackson ranked higher, but I am a little worried about the injury. It's Gio for sure. And then the other one, I mean, you might want to go with Swift just because Justin Jackson might start the game and then maybe he's pulled back because because the injury is bothering him or something like that. Because they called him a game time decision. So that may be enough to just go Swift on that one, even though I did like Jackson a little bit better. Zed, Joshua Kelly, Latavius Murray, Jamal Williams, pick 2. Jamal Williams is definitely one of them with Aaron Jones out. I'm playing him. And then Josh Kelly, Latavius Murray is a tough one for me. Both have fantastic matchups. Latavius is someone that I had to bump up, right? Because with Michael Thomas out of the lineup, with Emmanuel Sanders out of the lineup, you have to think Alvin Kamara is going to line up as a receiver at some point. They're going to do that. And Latavius Murray is going to be in the backfield. They're playing against Carolina, a team that weighted opportunity, second most in the league they're allowing to running backs. So I do like Latavius Murray. I think he has a good shot to score this touchdown against a team that has allowed 39 running back touchdowns in their last 22 games. With that being said, Joshua Kelly's the safer play because Joshua Kelly is going to get 15 touches in this game against the Jacksonville defense that's not very great. So I might lean Kelly here. It's not by a wide margin, but it's definitely Jamal Williams for the first one. The second one, I might go Kelly just because he's safer. But if you're looking for upside, I think Latavius Murray might have more. Let's see. Vanilla asked, hey, Mike, would you play Schultz over Fells at tight end in PPR? Probably, because when Darren Fells is active, so is Jordan Akins active? That's the question I want to ask. Hold on, I'm going to look this up because this is something I do every single week, because if Jordan Akins is out, not ready yet, he's out. No, that was week 6. It seems like he's set to miss this game too. All right, so with him out, it does move Fells up my rankings. I don't know if it's enough to get him above Schultz. It's really tough between those two. Tight ends is such a crapshoot, guys. It's really difficult to to just go through it and just say, oh, I love this guy over this guy. The only guys that I feel very strongly about this week at tight end, I'll tell you, the ones that I would start pretty much over everybody: Kelsey, Kittle, Darren Waller, Hunter Henry is a must play. TJ Hawkinson is a guy I would play. I don't think you could sit Jonnu Smith right now. Jared Cook has become that guy. And then after that, it's kind of like a bunch of guys, right? I have Gronk, I have Ebron, I have Fant, who he might not be 100%. That game's in snow. I might want to lower expectations for him. You have Robert Tonyan, you have Dalton Schultz. So this one's really difficult for me. I'm probably going to go with Dalton Schultz. I don't feel great about it, but that's kind of where we're at with tight ends. So let's see. Kimmels. PPR flex, Will Fuller, Kupp, or Robbie Anderson. So Cooper Kupp's ceiling is not great. His floor isn't even that great against the Bears, to be honest with you. If you look at Jared Goff, the last 2 times he's played this Bears defense, over the last 2 years too, so it's a very similar defense. He hasn't thrown a single touchdown. He's been terrible, actually. Like really, 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 really bad. So I don't think Cooper Kupp's ceiling is there. I don't think the floor is necessarily great. Robbie Anderson, the role is fantastic. New Orleans has been struggling with wide receivers, obviously, which is really weird though, because they do have one of the better cornerback duos in the league. It's just I think they've been playing well below their standard. And then Will Fuller, who's been playing like a wide receiver 1. I think I have to go with Will Fuller here, just considering how he's been playing as of late, and then you looking at the matchup. Will Fuller, outside of that one game against Baltimore, he's basically a top 10 wide receiver. We're hearing rumors that the Texans might be trading away some of their players like a Will Fuller, like a Brandon Cooks, maybe even a David Johnson, to recoup some of those lost picks that they basically had under Bill O'Brien. So there's a lot of things here that are, I think they're just trying to highlight some of the players in their team. Will Fuller's been playing well, so I'd probably go Fuller. It's close between him and Robbie Anderson, though. Let's see, DJ Moore, DJ Chark, or T. Higgins in the flex. I think I have DJ Moore there, just because, again, the Saints have struggled a little bit more with receivers than we expected them to. It's not to say that it's a great matchup. It's not. Because Marshawn Lattimore is better than he's played. That's just bottom line. So far in his coverage this year, he's allowed a 158.3 quarterback rating, which is actually perfect. So, I mean, it's tough to stand up for him right now, but I do think he's better than he's played. I think he was trying to play through some injuries, but DJ Moore is probably the one I'd play amongst those. I just think that there's like the least amount of competition for targets, because Chark is battling. Keelan Cole's playing fantastic. Laviska Shenault, his target share has been going up. James Robinson's been involved in the passing game. So the targets are there. It's not a great matchup against the Chargers. T. Higgins, we already know the options there, but he's also been seeing an increased target share. It's difficult. That's a difficult question, but I'd play DJ Moore personally. Ray asked, hey, Tags, Allen Robinson or Odell in a standard format? I want to play Odell. I know that not a lot of people are going to say that, but knowing that Nick Chubb is obviously out, they're not going to be able to run the ball as much. They're going to run the ball with Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt's going to be maybe the RB1 this week, but it's not going to be as much as they did in the first matchup. Odell Beckham shredded that secondary when he got the targets in that game. Austin Hooper is out for this game. So it's like all of a sudden a guy that was getting a 20+% target share over the last couple weeks, he's out of the lineup. We heard Jarvis Landry is trying to play through some sort of broken rib. That's obviously not good. So Odell Beckham should be a target hog in this game, and it's not a bad matchup against the Bengals. It's not at all. Whereas Allen Robinson, I said it on the podcast, I'm a little worried about Allen Robinson this week. The last time that he played against Jalen Ramsey and the Rams, he got shut down. Like legit, I think he had like 3 catches for 16 yards in that game. Now, Nick Foles is under center, not Mitch Trubisky, but Foles hasn't been better. Regardless of what people think, he hasn't in terms of like, he's been targeting Allen Robinson a ton, which is good. But again, Jalen Ramsey's playing lights out right now. I am a little bit worried about Allen Robinson, and I would play Beckham, I think, over him. Let's see, James. Good morning, dude. Standard league, Robert Woods or Tyler Boyd. I have anxiety. Yeah, I hear you, man. I personally would go with Tyler Boyd, and the reason I say that is because you think about it. These guys are both floor plays every week because you know they're going to get 6 targets. That's how you feel about them, right? So you kind of have to wade in and say, okay, I understand that Boyd might have a slightly smaller floor, like a little bit, not much, but a smaller floor. But the upside in those matchups is just head and shoulders different, right? You look at Cleveland and the fantasy points that they've allowed to some wide receivers, and then you look at the Bears, who, looking at the Bears, they have not allowed a top 12 wide receiver this year. I know that. But I was looking at that, and they've allowed like 1.39 PPR points per target to wide receivers this year. Yeah, no, the Bears haven't even allowed a wide receiver to finish better than wide receiver 23. And they've played against DJ Moore, who saw 11 targets, Mike Evans, who saw 9 targets, Calvin Ridley, who saw 12 targets, Robbie Anderson saw 5 targets. So it's like they've played some competition that have gotten targets, and they've still yet to allow a top 20 wide receiver. So I just don't think there's much upside with Woods this week, so I would probably play Boyd. Let's see. Cooper Kupp, Kelly, or Deontay Johnson, half PPR. Deontay is the odd man out here because we don't know what his role is going to be going back into the lineup. I would assume, I think some people are a little bit too low on him. I think he's going to walk back into a target, like a role that's going to see 6+ targets. But there is question marks about it, so we eliminate that. Cooper Kupp, I've already talked about the Rams wide receivers and that I think they lack upside this week. And, you don't play wide receivers for safety most of the time. So I'm going to go Joshua Kelly here. Kelly is not someone I like particularly much, but he is a guy that, again, he's going to have 15 plus touches in this week. And if Justin Jackson's injury is really that bad, he might have 20 touches in this game. So against Jacksonville, you kind of take that. So I'd play Joshua Kelly. Kevin asks, full PPR, Kenyon Drake or Jamal Williams? I'd play Jamal Williams. I don't like Kenyon Drake this week against Seattle. Seattle has been really, really good on the ground this year, and that's basically where Kenyon Drake's role is. There has been one running back who's totaled more than 65 yards on the ground against Seattle, and that was Alexander Mattison when he saw 20 carries in that game that was raining. Kind of in a backup role, too, which is really weird. But I don't think they're a great run defense, but I think they're solid. Where Kenyon Drake, if he's not being involved in the passing game, that's where he needs to be involved in order to get into, even high-end RB2 territory, so I don't think he gets there. So I'm going to play Jamal Williams. I just think that the upside is there. And Jamal Williams, even if he is splitting in a timeshare with A.J. Dillon, I would think it's going to be like a 60-40 timeshare. So when you talk about the Texans and the opportunity they should have against that defense, I would expect them to have at least 30 touches between the two of them. So you're looking at, a 17-13 split, something like that. So if you're getting 17 touches out of Jamal Williams against that Houston team, you're playing Jamal Williams. So I've really struggled with, because there's probably people, and again, I know I can't get to all the questions, but I want to answer one that I posted on Twitter yesterday because it was flooding my timeline. I kept getting questions, Giovanni Bernard or Jamal Williams, because people were on it. They were grabbing guys off the waiver wire like they were supposed to, and I said that Giovanni Bernard has a safer role as the RB2 in his offense. He's going to get 15 plus touches. We know that. I already talked about, comparing him to Joe Mixon and how this matchup against the Browns was not fruitful for Joe Mixon the first time they played. Now, things can change. Teams game plan differently against Giovanni Bernard than they do against Joe Mixon. I get that. So it's not apples to apples. But again, Bernard is someone that's locked into 15 touches. He's safe. You plug him in as an RB2. You hope he scores. Fine. Jamal Williams is the upside play. And it's like the question is the floor high enough for Jamal Williams to justify passing on that 15-touch guaranteed floor of Giovanni Bernard to get the upside that you do with Jamal Williams because he has a much better matchup. And again, he's a guy that I would expect to get 15 touches, but again, Matt LaFleur, we don't know how he's going to handle this. He could say, we're going to keep Jamal Williams in the same exact role, and we're going to put A.J. Dillon out there as the 1-2 down back. It's possible. I don't think that happens, but we have to think about the odds, right? So I've struggled with that all morning trying to figure out which one I want to put higher, and I think it just depends on the matchup you have and what you're looking for out of the player. Let's see here. Stop that. All right. Spencer, good morning, dude. Full PPR, Godwin, Claypool, Swift need big upside, playing the number one in the league. If you're looking for upside, I don't know how we don't go with Godwin here. I mean, the Raiders have not been horrendous in the slot. LaMarcus Joyner is a guy that played safety for the Rams, and then he came over to the Raiders, and they transitioned him to the slot cornerback, and that's where they're playing him. He's actually done a fine job in coverage, but when he sees wide receivers that get volume, he's not great. Now, Mike Evans has not been a guy that's been dominating matchups. It is so difficult because there's going to be production here. I think Godwin is the one that I would play with the highest upside. There's a reason that we drafted him as a second-round wide receiver this year. Now, again, injuries have played a role in knocking him out of games and limiting some upside, like coming back to the lineup. But him and Tom Brady are still developing that chemistry. Claypool, I like. He has upside, obviously. But this is the first time that we're going to see Chase Claypool in a game with all four of these wide receivers healthy. Juju Smith-Schuster's not going anywhere in the slot. They're going to play Juju. He's going to play. Deontay Johnson, he had a 31.3% target share through the first 3 or 4 games he played. 3 games, I think, yeah. So it's like he was the number one in the offense, basically. And then they had Chase Claypool and James Washington battling for those number 3 wide receiver snaps. It was James Washington that was edging Chase Claypool in those games. But now that the genie is out of the bottle, right? You can't put him back in. But the question is, what are we sacrificing here? You don't have a high target share for him in this game. I do not believe, because I still do think that he's the number 3 wide receiver. I still have him ranked as like a top 24 play, but I'm not going to put him as high as Godwin. And then DeAndre Swift, Again, Atlanta's been better against running backs than I think people realize. You need to get it done through the air against them, and Swift can get done in the passing game, but I would play Godwin of those if you're looking for upside. John asked, McKinnon, Gio, or Moore? I'm guessing that's DJ Moore, maybe? I'm not sure. I have Gio ranked the highest because, again, McKinnon is someone that I don't have an issue ranking McKinnon as a top 24 running back, but we don't know what his role is. JaMychal Hasty, is that a thing? Is that a real thing? We don't know. Jeff Wilson is expected to be back in the lineup this week. Does he take some of those touches? Is this a full-blown timeshare where we see McKinnon get 10 carries and 4 targets? That's possible. It absolutely is possible. I'm playing Giovanni Bernard there. The matchup is a little bit better for Gio than McKinnon as well, so that's where I would go. Gio. David asks, Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the snow or Josh Jacobs? Edwards-Helaire. I mean, Jacobs' matchup is brutal. His offensive linemen, apparently they're going to be able to play in this game from like the whole COVID scare, but they were guys that probably didn't practice a whole lot this week against Tampa Bay, a team that's been dominant against running backs. That's scary. I'd play Clyde here. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a better running back than Le'Veon Bell at this stage in their career. It is what it is. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think that he may rank number 1 in the league in broken tackles. Is a guy that's forcing people to miss. He's breaking tackles and he's doing all that. He's elusive. He's a 3-down back. And then you have Le'Veon Bell as a guy who, the reason I didn't like Le'Veon when he went to the Jets, and you can go back and listen to all that stuff, I talked about it in that he was a guy that you have to play to his strengths, and the Jets didn't have those strengths, right? Like they couldn't afford to do that because they didn't have the offensive line to do that. Le'Veon Bell's best attribute is the fact that he is he's patient. He waits behind his blockers. He sees things open up, but the Jets didn't have that. The Chiefs don't really have that either. They're not creating a whole lot of yards before contact for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, so I just don't think that Le'Veon Bell is going to succeed very much on the ground with this team. If anything, it's going to be through the air. And now, can Andy Reid figure out a way to use him in that way? Yeah, he can. But I still think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the running back to own there, and I think that he's the guy that is worth more for the rest of the season. I think I have him at RB14 for the remainder of the season, so like a high-end RB2. Brian asked, Jacobs or David Johnson PPR? That's a close one. That's one where it's like I am really torn about that because Jacobs' opportunity share is like very high. Whereas David Johnson, he's also getting a high opportunity. He has a better matchup against Green Bay this week. That one's really tough. It's difficult for me to say that. I think David Johnson's the upside play. I think Josh Jacobs might be the safer one because David Johnson is basically turned into the running back that we thought he was going to be. Remember, like when everybody was drafting him around that RB22 area, and we were like, he's a volume running back. He's not sexy, but he's a guy that you could plug into your lineup and just get 15 touches a week. He's still that guy. The issue is that he's not being used a whole lot in the passing game. So if he doesn't score a touchdown, you're kind of screwed. Man, that one's tough. All right. Justin asked, start Carr or Minshew? I'd play Minshew. Apparently he's playing for his job right now, and is that fair? Do I think that Gardner Minshew is the reason the Jaguars aren't good? No, not at all. But they're looking for a scapegoat, and that's fine. Mike Glennon's going to go out there and suck it up. But I would play Minshew. Carr not having his offensive lineman at full strength or practicing or whatever the case may be in a tough matchup against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's been playing so damn good right now. Like, that's a team that's defense is firing on all cylinders. They just stopped Aaron Rodgers last week, the guy that was playing at an MVP level. So I am going to say that Minshew is the play. Minshew continually outperforms expectations, and there is risk with him, sure, but the upside with Carr, what is it? 275 yards and 2 touchdowns. Is that it? So, I mean, that's the upside that you're missing out. That's the ceiling. So I'd play Minshew. Let's see. Fire Dan as Kirk or Deontay Johnson, full PPR. I would play Christian Kirk this week. Kirk is someone that I've been moving up in my rankings as the week goes on because DeAndre Hopkins is still not 100%. The last time we saw DeAndre Hopkins is like a game time decision. He didn't play particularly well. I think he had like 6 catches for like 41 yards in that game. This Seattle team has allowed, let me add it up for you real quick. They've allowed 11 different wide receivers to finish as wide receiver 31 or better. That's incredible. There have been 12 wide receivers who have totaled at least 65 yards against them. So Christian Kirk is a guy that, If Hopkins really isn't 100% and they just have him out there as somewhat of a decoy, we could see Christian Kirk get 8+ targets against this defense that's just been rocked by wide receivers. So I like Kirk. Deontay Johnson, there's just questions about him. Eric asked Jamal Williams or David Johnson. I mean, I think we have to go David Johnson there. And I'm saying that because David Johnson is just the guy that we know is locked into that workhorse role. Like Duke Johnson has been getting like 3 or 4 opportunities a game. It's been pretty ridiculous. So, I mean, I understand thinking about it. And I think Dan Harris, we were talking about this earlier today, and all right, so news came in. And he was saying that basically he's moving Jamal Williams up to like RB7, RB8. And I'm like, wow, like that seemed really high for me. I understand it because if he does get the workload that Aaron Jones is beginning and they move Dillon into that Jamal Williams role, it's like, well, I could see it. I really can against Houston because Houston's a team that just, they can't stop the run right now. And by the way, guys, Aaron Jones is officially inactive. That just came through on the Fantasy Pros news desk. If you guys don't already, like the Fantasy Pros news desk has been killing it this year. Like literally I'll get alerts from them sometimes before I even get it from Rappaport, which is really good. But thank you guys obviously being here. We're going strong. I mean, we still got we're only halfway through the show, guys, but almost 7,000 of you in here. Thank you guys so much for being here. Click the like button if you really are enjoying the show. It definitely does help us out. And click subscribe if you haven't already, because again, we keep growing the channel. Thanks to you guys, we keep doing more content, and you can see like the phenomenal graphics that are part of this now. It's like we're putting more and more time into it. We hope you guys enjoy it. So let's see, working down the list. Start Ronald Jones or Jamal Williams in PPR. I'm going to play Ronald Jones. I mean, the Raiders are a team. With the way Ronald Jones has been playing, you can't take the ball out of his hands. Like, you really can't. And you look at the Raiders, they've allowed 3 different running backs to finish as a top 2 running back. They've played 5 games, and they've allowed 3 running backs to finish top 2. A lot of teams don't allow that all season long. So, I mean, I like Ronald Jones with the way he's playing right now. I don't think you could even consider benching him. Even if Jamal Williams does come with some upside, you're hoping that he gets the workload that Ronald Jones has gotten. Tanyan or Cook? I would play Cook now that we know that Michael Thomas is out and Emmanuel Sanders is out. I'd play Cook over him. Tanyan didn't practice for a portion of the week because he's dealing with an ankle injury. He is going to play. The matchup against Houston has been decent. It's and I know that Anthony Ferkser did well last week, but it's been decent, even going back to the last year where it's like this. It's a similar defensive scheme. So I would play Cook. I just think his target share is too much. Like, he's basically got, I'll say a minimum 6 targets coming his way this week. And from Drew Brees, they're typically worth a little bit more, especially in that intermediate area of the field. Christian Kirk or DJ Moore, distance scoring. I have DJ Moore ranked higher. I don't love it, but I do. DJ Moore is just a guy that we could lock in for more targets, and typically that's what you're chasing. The matchup is so much better for Christian Kirk, but again, the Saints cornerbacks have been struggling a bit more than we expected them to. Marshawn Lattimore and Janoris Jenkins haven't lived up to their names. So I have DJ Moore higher, but I do like Christian Kirk. Voiceover Donnie, it is not my birthday, so that you missed that. That was a month and like 9 days ago, but I'll still answer your question. OBJ, Chark, Claypool, PPR. I would go with Odell. Again, I talked about Odell a little bit before and said that he's someone that I'm willing to play as a solid wide receiver 2 this week, because you look at the matchup, and the last time that he played against this Bengals secondary, he torched them. I mean, he did score a long touchdown. He was held on a couple pass interference calls that basically got them in the red zone. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt went off for like 3 touchdowns in that game, but they don't have Chubb this week, obviously. Hunt's going to have a good game, but without Austin Hooper, it's like, the targets all of a sudden are starting to be funneled to Odell again, and we should expect, I would say, 8 targets in this game minimum, and if he's getting 8 targets against that secondary, who is, by the way, without their best cornerback, William Jackson, who's out with a concussion, Odell is somebody that's moved up my rankings, and I would start him as a wide receiver 2 this week. Let's see. Walking toasters. That's fun. Mike Davis, Melvin Gordon, or Giovanni Bernard. Yeah, you can't sit Mike Davis with the role he's been getting. It's a tough matchup against New Orleans. It really is. New Orleans is one of the best run defenses in the NFL. They're right there up with the Steelers and the Bucs. They're probably number 3. Those are the 3 teams you don't want to see for your running back. But Mike Davis is the opportunity. legitimately, I basically have my spreadsheets that I do with like weighted opportunity, and it measures just like the opportunity that those players have. And Mike Davis has basically walked into the same exact role that Christian McCaffrey had, which is, people talk about running backs don't matter. They do matter. They just don't matter so much. Basically, you're looking for opportunity. Mike Davis has gotten so much of it that you can't pass him up. Melvin Gordon may have lost some of that opportunity to Phillip Lindsay, who played particularly well last week. That game is going to be played in the snow, but they could fall behind, and then all of a sudden it leads to just more passing, and it could be an ugly game there. Giovanni Bernard, I like him for 15 touches, but I don't think he's nearly as good as Mike Davis in terms of the opportunity or the offense that he's playing in. I just feel like Mike Davis is the play. You can't bench him right now. Ashley asks, Matt Ryan, Minshew, or Goff, full PPR. You are not playing Goff. Minshew there's a threat of him getting benched this week if he struggles. It's not a great matchup against the Chargers, but I'm going Matt Ryan here. This one's not even close for me. Matt Ryan is, with Julio back in the lineup, he's back into QB1 territory, and this game has all the makings of a shootout because, like, Detroit can't stop anybody on defense. They're not very good on defense. The Falcons obviously throw the ball a ton. I don't want to say you can't run the ball in Atlanta, but they're tougher to run the ball on. You could throw it against them. I like Stafford. I like Matt Ryan. I like all the pass catchers. So Matt Ryan is the one. A Parks, hey, Mr. Mike. Hey, would you start Tom Brady or Justin Herbert? I would go with Herbert this week. I just feel like Brady, his upside is a bit limited because Ronald Jones is playing so well. That defense is playing so well. I'm expecting that game to be a little bit lower scoring, to be honest with you. So it's possible Brady throws a few touchdowns, but I don't think his yardage is going to be massive or anything like that. Whereas Justin Herbert is a guy that he just continually produces. I mean, he's doing it in a variety of ways. He's going to have both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams healthy for this game. Hunter Henry has a great matchup. Justin Jackson stepped into that pass catching role, played well last week or 2 weeks ago. So I do like Herbert here, and I think I have him ranked as my number 9 quarterback this week, maybe a number 8, really close. Let's see, DJ, PPR pick 2, A-Rob, Gio, or Jamal Williams. Wow. I'm probably going to play the running backs. Just being completely honest here. Allen Robinson's really difficult to sit, but you have 2 running backs that Giovanni Bernard locked into 15-plus touches, and then Jamal Williams, I would also think he's probably going to get 15 touches in a great matchup. Even if it's like 12 to 15, I would say that Jamal Williams' opportunity is just great. Whereas Allen Robinson matched up with Jalen Ramsey this week, not a good matchup. Nick Foles hasn't been particularly good either. So I would play the running backs. Craig asked Schultz or Tanya in half PPR. I'd play Tanya in there. I mean, it's not exciting, but Schultz, we haven't seen it with Dalton yet, so we can't get excited about him, whereas Tanyan is at least a red zone option. And without Aaron Jones, they basically have to find somewhere for those targets to go because Aaron Jones has been getting a pretty big opportunity through the air. Let's see, James Robinson or Juju in a PPR. This one's James Robinson. The matchup is not good for Robinson. He's been struggling a little bit as of late. The Chargers are the only team in the NFL who's yet to allow a rushing touchdown to a running back. I don't love James Robinson this week, but the opportunity is there, and he's still someone that you're going to play as a borderline RB1, high-end RB2. But Juju is just it's mind-boggling. I don't know what's going on with Juju. I have a trade offer, me personally, in one of my leagues where I'm basically being offered Juju Smith-Schuster for Marquise Brown, and I don't want to do it. I love Juju, but at some point, if you're that good, like, you have to produce. You do, and he's not producing. I don't know what's going on there, but it's not good. So basically, Juju, if I have the choice, I'm going to try and keep him on my bench just for a little bit. Just I want to see him like put together some performances because he's not been very good. Justin asked Jamal Williams or Justin Jackson. I think I got this one earlier for someone. I said Jamal Williams. Let's see. Golden asked pick 2, Allen Robinson, OBJ, or Chark, half PPR. I'd go with Odell as one of them. Oh, yeah, pick 2 here. This is one where I'm probably going to say Odell and Allen Robinson. Again, I am worried about Allen Robinson this week. I don't think that he's going to smash or anything like that. But DJ Chark, the matchup against the Chargers is not particularly great. So I'm probably going to go Allen Robinson and OBJ there. Odell is my favorite one of the 3, but then Allen Robinson probably. Let's see. Paul asked Christian Kirk or Mike Williams. I have Christian Kirk slightly higher than Mike Williams this week. The only reason I say that is because Mike Williams, the game that he produced was when he produced in that game was when Jamal Williams is dancing on the field right now, and it looks pretty funny. But sorry. But Mike Williams, the only time that he produced was when Keenan Allen left the game. And then all of a sudden, Mike Williams went off. And granted, I think Mike Williams is better than people give him credit for. Mike Williams is a really, really good wide receiver, dealt with a lot of injuries. But now that we have a good matchup for Hunter Henry, now that we know that Keenan Allen's back, which is obviously Justin Herbert's favorite option, there's some reasons that we should say, okay, there's a little concern. But Christian Kirk this week, again, the Seahawks have already allowed 11 wide receivers to finish as the wide receiver 31 or better. They've only played 5 games, guys. It's incredible how bad they've been against wide receivers this year. So I'm going to play Christian Kirk. Let's see. Funky, Woods or Amari in PPR? I'm playing Amari. Amari's been solid, man. And it seemed like they they purposely avoided him last week in the first half. I don't know why they did it, because then once you started to see targets funneled to Amari, it's like, oh, he's going to make you look better, Andy Dalton. Throw the ball to Amari Cooper. And I think he came around to that, and Amari will become his favorite option. So I do like Amari. The ceiling is higher against Washington than it is for Woods against the Bears. Swift or Jamal? I have Jamal Williams higher. I worry about Swift's opportunity. He has never seen more than, I think, 45% of the touches in that offense, or 46, something like that. So if there's not a whole lot of touches, if they have to go through the air, I just worry about Swift in terms of his stability. Both have upside this week. I think Jamal Williams might actually have higher upside. All right, let's see. James Robinson or Terry McLaurin half PPR. Oof. Oh, man, that one's tough. I love Terry McLaurin this week. I have him ranked as a top 10 wide receiver, I think. Against Dallas. I don't think there's any reason to dislike him. So, Agori, I'm going to tell you this, and I do this sometimes, and it's because it's really going to be up to you. What do you want? Are you looking for stability? If you're looking for stability and you're like, hey, I cannot have fewer than 10 or 10.5 PPR points, you probably go James Robinson. But if you're like, I'm okay taking a slightly lower floor in order to get some upside, play Terry McLaurin. I'd probably play McLaurin. Tyler S. PPR bench 1. Giovanni Bernard, David Montgomery, CD Lamb. I think it's got to be Lamb, honestly. And it's not because I don't like CD Lamb. I think he's delivered a solid floor in every one of his games. He has, I think he has at least 5 catches and 55 yards in every game that he's played. So the floor has been there. But David Montgomery with Tariq Cohen on IR, he's had massive weighted opportunity. He's top 12 in the NFL. I worry about him because I don't think he's that good, and I don't think the Bears offensive line is good. I don't think the matchup is great. But again, he's getting those touches, and if he's getting those catches out of the backfield in PPR format, it's worth something. There's stability there. Giovanni Bernard, I'd play over both of them, so that's where I'd go. I guess I'd bench Lamb. Jordan asks, CeeDee Lamb or Justin Jackson, half PPR. If Jackson's playing, I think I have to go Jackson there. Again, Andy Dalton last week threw the ball, 50-some times? So CeeDee Lamb got there eventually. But if that volume gets cut down, it should be against Washington. Fun fact, Washington has allowed the fewest fantasy points per game to wide receivers thus far. It's bananas. It makes no sense, but it's true. So I'm probably going to go Justin Jackson, just play it safe there. Jack says half PPR, Robert Woods or CeeDee Lamb. I'll go with Woods. I don't like either of them this week very much, but I think Woods is the one with a stable role, and it's possible. So, what you're looking for at Robert Woods, you're just looking for him to rack up some receptions. That's all you want. And that's the game that they're playing this year, is that they're having Goff. I think he's averaging just 5 air yards per target, which is tied for Breeze. It's the lowest in the league. So they're just using this West Coast offense to move the ball. And Robert Woods did see, I think, double-digit targets last week. So I'm probably going to go with Woods here. Over Lamb, it's not sexy. If you want upside, I think Lamb might have higher upside. Avi asked Robert Woods or James Robinson. I would play James Robinson. The matchup is tough, but I'd still play him over Robert Woods. Durf Fred, Jamal Williams or Allen Robinson PPR flex with half point for first downs. I would go with Jamal Williams. Again, I have Allen Robinson lower than the consensus. I think I have him as the wide receiver 17 this week. So I'm not telling you must bench Allen Robinson. What I'm telling you is to beware that it's not a good matchup for him this week. And I would take a running back that's locked into 15 touches, I would say. I would play him over Allen Robinson. Let's see, Hectic Tangent, Jamal Williams or James Robinson PPR, have a great day. I have James Robinson slightly higher, and it's not to say that I'm not. If you're looking for a higher ceiling, it's Jamal Williams. But there is more uncertainty with his role, which is why I can't rank him above someone like James Robinson. Robinson, his role is massive. He's been involved in the passing game a whole lot over the last like 3-4 weeks. So that's something you can't take away from him, even in a tough matchup against the Chargers. Jamal Williams, I talked about it last week. I played Derrick Henry everywhere in DFS, and the reason I did that is because, like, in terms of teams running the ball, like, consistently against Houston, like, teams, I think it's the second highest run rate in the league against Houston, and then you looked at a team that had a high run rate because they want to run the ball with Derrick Henry, and it all matched up. But then it's not just that, though. You watch the games. Like, if you actually physically sit down and watch the games that Houston plays, any running back that goes against that team, they make everybody look good. Like, they have been brutal. Like, brutal. So I don't know. I want to like Jamal Williams a whole lot, and I feel like I'm going to be too low on him. And like I said, Dan Harris, like a guy that obviously works with me, I respect him. He's number 8 or number 7 in the season rankings, like the accuracy competition. So he's very, very good at what he does with his projections. He had him statted out as the number 7 running back this week. So, I mean, you're moving Jamal Williams up quite a bit. I haven't put him up over James Robinson, but I could understand the case being made for it. There's another one, Jamal Williams or Ronald Jones. I have to play Ronald Jones. I am not going to bench Ronald Jones this week. I have him ranked as the, I think, number 9 running back. Oh, number 7. So with the injuries to Aaron Jones and stuff like that, I've actually moved him all the way up to RB7. I love him this week. I'm playing Ronald Jones, and I would play him over Jamal Williams. What do you think the role is going to be of Antonio Brown? It's a good question. Obviously, he's going to play in 3 wide receiver sets. He's going to be one of the perimeter receivers, Mike Evans in the other one. Chris Godwin still playing the slot. The one who is not affected as much is Chris Godwin because his role, again, it's the intermediate, is the intermediate role over the middle of the field, and that's really not going to change. You know, you're looking at someone like Scotty Miller, who's going to be like essentially useless in this offense. You're going to look at Rob Gronkowski lose some targets. You're going to see Mike Evans lose some targets. It's basically going to take off. It's going to skim off everyone's ceiling because Antonio Brown is not going to be in the lineup and see fewer than 5 targets per game. It's happening. Like, he's going to have a role in fantasy. And once he does get on the field, which is week 9 is now when we're expecting to see him on the field. I mean, Tom Brady advocated him for a reason. Like, the guy can still play football. He's a head case, and he's way out there. I don't particularly like who he is as a person, but he is a damn good football player, and he's going to get targeted. It's pure and simple. You don't bring Antonio Brown in to sit on the bench. You don't bring him in to be a decoy. You play him. So I happen to think he's probably going to be a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3, and I think that he's going to crush Mike Evans' upside. I think Mike Evans is going to turn into a touchdown or bust guy. Like, I don't want to say Mike Williams-esque, but that's kind of where we're trending, which really sucks for Mike Evans, who's produced throughout his career. Let's see. Jacobs or Justin Jackson PPR. I still have Jacobs higher. Justin Jackson's still involved in a timeshare. We don't know exactly what that timeshare is. He's dealing with an injury. There's a lot of question marks. Gronk or Jared Cook. I had Gronk higher. I did, but I've changed it because when you hear that Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders are out for the Saints, Jared Cook's going to be a wide receiver. He's going to be like almost the insto de facto number 1 wide receiver for them. Traquan Smith is going to be a good option too. So I have Jared Cook. I moved him up over Gronk, so I would play Jared Cook. It's just safer. Pimp Master P. Hey, Tags. Hey, what's up, man? Tanyan, Graham, or Fells in a full PPR. I have Tanyan ranked higher. Jimmy Graham is not the worst option, but the reason that I hesitate to put Graham higher is because if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's not a guy that's going to gather a bunch of yards. I think there's one game this year where he has over like 36 yards or something like that. It's just not very stable. Now, they are using him in the red zone a lot. The question is, how often are the Bears in the red zone against the Rams in what's considered to be one of the lowest scoring games in the slate? I worry about that. And then you look at Tanyan, and again, with Aaron Jones out of the lineup, it clears up some targets and some opportunity in that intermediate area of the field. So I do like Tanyan the most of that group. But they all come with risk. I'm not pretend they don't. 1 second. Love that you guys are here. Love that you guys are here. Thank you guys. Seriously, I wouldn't be here if you guys didn't show up. So thank you guys. Thank you for sharing it with your friends, doing whatever you're doing. Thank you for liking the video. Thank you for subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, because again, we do this every single Sunday, and I hope you guys are having a blast. I hope you're learning something. I know I sometimes learn something myself because I adjust rankings after I get off the show because I talk it through with you guys, and sometimes talking about it it's like going to a therapist or something like that. Like, I guess like to talk out things and just figure it out, right? And that's what we're doing together. So thank you guys for being a part of this with me. I appreciate it. I'm going to get back to some more questions here. CeeDee Lamb or Keelan Cole, half PPR. I'm going to play CeeDee Lamb. The floor has been fantastic. Keelan Cole is a guy, until last week, he was a guy that basically you played like a Cole Beasley. You know, you're expecting 4 or 5 catches a week, maybe 40 to 60 yards, nothing massive. But then, of course, he goes off against Detroit, and now everybody wants to play him. The matchup is not great against Desmond King for the Chargers. He's their slot cornerback. He's been pretty good. He's kept the play in front of them. He has not allowed the big plays. I think he's allowing like 9 yards per reception on the year. Whereas CeeDee Lamb, again, he has given, there's enough sample size now. You know, we have 6 games of him producing at least 5 catches, at least 55 yards in every game. He's the first person in NFL history to have at least 5 catches and 55 yards in each of his first 5 games. He's done it 6 games now. But, yeah, it's kind of remarkable what he's doing. Hey, Tags. Let's see. Wait, Leanne in Texas. Hey, Tags. Andy Dalton or Gardner Minshew in full PPR. Thanks, buddy. So this one's tough. I have Gardner Minshew ranked higher than Andy Dalton this week, and I'm saying that because Gardner Minshew continually outperforms expectations. If you look at Gardner Minshew's, if you just don't even watch the games, but if you look at Minshew and you see his game logs, right? They've played 6 games so far. He has finished as the QB 11 to QB 13 in all but 1 game. And it was that Thursday night game against the Dolphins where everybody's like, oh, God. And that was the only game he played without Keelan Cole, or without DJ Chark. So he's been the QB 11, 12, or 13 in every other game. Why do we keep doubting this guy? He just keeps putting up fantasy floor number after number. And then Andy Dalton last week, he didn't even finish as a top 12 fantasy quarterback despite throwing the ball over 50 times against the Cardinals. So I don't know why we should trust Andy Dalton at this point. I'm more of like, show me something first. And knowing that he's without his starting left tackle, Tyron Smith, done. Knowing that Zach Martin, the best interior lineman that he has, not playing. I'm worried about Andy Dalton. I'm worried about that offensive line, so I'm playing Gardner. Stinger, Tags, please help. I'll try. My wide receivers are depressing this week. Pick one, half PPR. A-Rob, Juju, or Tim Patrick. I mean, that's not depressing, dude. Like, depressing is when I have to choose between, like, Jarvis Landry and A.J. Green. That's a bit depressing. This is not depressing. I'd play Allen Robinson. He's averaging basically, I think, he might be over 10 targets a game, his average, but I'd play Allen Robinson. Juju is someone that I'm waiting around on. I want to see him perform. You have a proven option in front of him. And then Tim Patrick against the Chiefs. Not only are the Chiefs really, 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 really good against wide receivers, that game is projected to be played in the snow, so it's not good. I'd play Allen Robinson. Thane asks, full PPR, DJ Moore or Jamal Williams? I'd go Jamal Williams. Give me the guaranteed touches. Yeah. Woody Bowling, flex Edelman or Gronk. Oh, man, this is tough. I'd probably play Edelman personally. There's a reason that we don't like to play with tight ends is because they're just so unpredictable. And I do feel like the Bucs are not going to have to throw the ball a whole lot in that game. You know, you do have Godwin healthy, you have Mike Evans healthy, but with the way that Ronald Jones is running the ball, with the way that defense is playing, I just don't know if there's enough pass attempts to make me feel confident about Gronk. Edelman, the matchup is better against the 49ers than it was a couple of weeks ago because K'Wan Williams, their slot cornerback, is out. He's not playing, so I think Edelman is the way I would go here. I know he's been very, very disappointing, but that's where I'd go. Jay Storm, Antonio Gibson or Justin Jackson, half PPR, many thanks. Yeah, this is one I've gone back and forth on, and I think the injury that Justin Jackson is dealing with is enough to make me lean with Antonio Gibson. Gibson is not someone I'm like in love with, and I'm saying that because he's just not getting enough snaps for me to feel confident playing him. I go through this in the primer every single week, and if you guys haven't, for whatever reason, like if you're watching the show and you're like, hey, this is cool, I'd love to hear thoughts on my players. If I don't get to your question, I write up the primer every week, and it's an article that I write a paragraph on every player from every game. It's free. It's on FantasyPros.com. And it's about 30 to 35,000 words a week. I put a lot into it. And I highlight things like this. Like Antonio Gibson hasn't played 40 snaps in a single game. And if we go back to last year when we were talking about the Eagles running backs, or we have like the last 3 years with the Eagles running backs under Doug Peterson, he was basically using a timeshare and he continually did that. We're seeing that with Washington right now under Scott Turner. Antonio Gibson's not playing a workhorse role. Now it benefits him as the primary 1-2 down back to be in a neutral game script where it's not a blowout in either way. In this game, I want to say that the spread changed. The Cowboys were the favorite, and then all of a sudden Washington turned into the team that was actually giving points. I'm going to look at it right now just to see what it's at. Washington is -1. So Dallas is getting 8 points in this game, which is just bananas to me. I think that's crazy, but I mean, we've seen crazier things in 2020. So yeah, that's that's a bit odd. But yeah, I'd play Gibson if that's where I was going with that. I'm sorry. David Henderson asked Juju, Traquan Smith, or Christian Kirk full PPR. That's a really tough question, and a really good one, actually. I think that they're all in similar territory. Juju is someone I'm almost looking for a reason not to play Juju at this point, and I think you have enough in Traquan or Kirk. Kirk is a guy that's seeing at least 5 targets in every game he's playing, with DeAndre Hopkins not really healthy, with wide receivers averaging like 25 targets per game against the Seahawks. I think we have to go Kirk here. He's someone that I have as a top 30 wide receiver play this week. Traquan Smith I do like, but he's slightly behind Kirk because actually, the Panthers have allowed the fewest yards per target to quarterbacks this year. Bananas, right? 2020. Just blame 2020. But Christian Kirk is probably the guy I would go with there. Shadow Club, good morning. Good morning. Josh Allen or Goff? It's Josh Allen. It's not close. The Angry Vets, CEH or Chark, full PPR. I'd play Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Kevin asked Justin Jackson or Kenyon Drake, PPR flex. That one is so tough. It is so tough. I wish I knew that Justin Jackson was healthy, because if he were healthy, I'd feel great about it. This is tough. I guess we go with Drake. I don't feel particularly good about it, but I'm a little worried about Justin Jackson's injury and the fact that he had to be a game time decision. That's the part I worry about. Full PPR flex, Justin Jackson or Giovanni Bernard or Deebo Samuel. I would go Giovanni Bernard in that instance. He's just too safe. The 15 touch floor is just too safe to pass up. Dalton Fisher as standard. Jamal Williams, T. Higgins, DJ Chark, or James Robinson. James Robinson and Jamal Williams, I've talked about that. I had that question actually pop up before, and it was one that I talked myself through, and I said this all depends on what you want out of your lineup. If you want a safer play, a guy that's going to be locked into 15 opportunities, it's James Robinson. If you're looking for a ceiling, I think it's Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams, to be fair, probably is locked into at least 12 to 15 touches, and that's enough to do damage against Houston. So maybe I'm too low on Jamal Williams, and maybe I need to move him up in my rankings. There is some risk involved, but I think the ceiling is just too high to pass up. So I might be moving Jamal Williams up beyond him. Let's see. Antonio Gibson or Jamal? I would play Jamal Williams. SQRL, standard flex, Latavius Murray, Brandon Cooks, or AJ Green. I have Brandon Cooks as like a high-end wide receiver, or a low-end wide receiver 3. AJ Green is wide receiver 4 territory. It's like, okay, we're moving in the right direction, but prove it to me one more time before I trust you. And Latavius Murray is going to have a bigger role now that we have, the receivers out for New Orleans, and they might use Alvin Kamara as somewhat of a receiver in this game. So Latavius Murray is the one I might go with. I think I might go Latavius. It's crazy because it's a very good question. It's a tough one. In standard leagues, it's very touchdown dependent. So you look for the touchdowns here. I think Latavius has the best shot. Let's see. David asked, yo, tags. I'm not even going to. PPR, Deontay Johnson or DJ Chark. I'd play Chark there. I just don't know what Deontay Johnson's role is. I have him ranked around wide receiver 33, I believe. So I'm not like all out on him. I do think that he has a role coming back to the offense, but there is some uncertainty. So I'll go with DJ Chark there. Dorian, half PPR, bench 1, Edelman, Shenault, or Judy. I have Laviska Shenault as someone I would sit this week. Based on where they align in their offense and where he typically lines up, he would actually see Casey Hayward the most. And they have not been using Casey Hayward in a shadow role. So I do worry about Laviska Shenault. So he would be the one I'd probably bench this week. Anthony asked, half PPR, Joshua Kelly, AJ Dillon, Juju, or Latavius. There's a lot of question marks there. I'm trying to do really quick. Joshua Kelly, probably the one I would go with. Ray asked McKissick or Latavius Murray in a PPR. In a PPR format, that's tough. I have Latavius slightly higher, I believe. Ben asked 12-team PPR, redraft, flex, Antonio Gibson, Justin Jackson, or Chase Claypool. I probably take the touches for Antonio Gibson. Claypool's the upside option there. I think he actually comes with the most upside in those matchups, but Antonio Gibson's the safest play. Matthew asked, bench 1, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Mike Davis, Carson, or Hunt. Whew. That is a good problem to have, my friend. A good problem to have. I'm going to actually look at my rankings in order to answer that one because I feel really bad about it. I guess Mike Davis is the one I would bench. I mean, that's crazy. I don't want to bench Mike Davis, but based on the options you have, well, maybe Edwards-Helaire, maybe. Denver's been a pretty good run defense. That one's tough. It's Edwards-Helaire or Mike Davis. I don't think I could bench Carson or Hunt this week. So make your choice between Edwards-Helaire and Davis. Bench one of those guys. Taste the Skittles. Justin Jackson or Devin Singletary. That they're in the same exact territory. I have Justin Jackson ranked slightly higher than him, but understand he comes with some risk. But Devin Singletary, let's not pretend he doesn't come with risk, because the Jets' run defense is a little bit better than people give it credit for. That team is somewhat giving up, though, so it wouldn't surprise me to see Singletary running them. But again, they're not running the ball a whole lot in Buffalo, and I don't know why they're getting away from that so much. I think it opens things up for Josh Allen. I think he struggled because they haven't run the ball. So does that change? Maybe. But there's risk with both of them. I think Justin Jackson is the guy that has more upside. So I'll play Jackson. And guys, Yates is going live right now. Thank you guys for tuning in. Click the like button, click the subscribe button, and then go check out Yates. He's going to be answering questions for a full hour, all the way up until kickoff for you guys. So thank you again. I greatly appreciate it. I wish you all the best of luck in your fantasy matchups. And yeah, until next time, lights out.